it is not easy to pass this exam. You have to understand UPSC for every issue, every topic, he will see where you have stopped learning. Where you will stop learning, beyond that he will ask a question. Always remember. So for example, this was in news. This was in news. If this was in news, anything directly related to this nahi puchega. Nothing will come in the exam. Take it in writing. Definitely he will say, this is the first genetically modified crop. If you do not know the history, you will perceive, yes, this is first. Then he will ask, which is the committee that approves, which is the committee which is responsible for the field trials, and if he is angry on you, he will go to the level, what are the various forms of seed, types of seed, what happens when a genetically modified seed is introduced into the, all these levels he will ask. और उसका दिमाग और खराब हो गया तो इसका scientific name क्या है, and what is the family that it belongs to, what are the other crops from this family, a comparative analysis. So you stopped here, he started here. So that is where most of you will feel, I know the topic but not the answer. The reason why it happens is, that is where he is testing you, have you researched a little bit about it or not. So whichever topic is in news, you will have to, you create a circle. You create a circle, this is a topic, let it be anything. If it is hate speech, the moment it is hate speech, what are the constitutional provisions, what are the statutory provisions, what are the recent amendments to it, what is the stand of Supreme Court on this, who is the recent victim of this, all these dimensions you need to make. Tabhi aapka 100%. See, I have seen many students, they are too good in prelims. 140, 150, आराम से आते हैं. क्यों आते हैं? Every issue they are doing this. So that is how generally a question will not go out of your scope. Even if you do not know the exact answer, you will be able to guess among two options. So if that is the, if you are weak in prelims, if especially the repeaters, if somebody feels they are weak in prelims, for every topic, every issue you do this. If it is anything for that matter, today also we will discuss some dimensions. When you go back home, is there anything sir has left out? Try to Google about it, that will definitely come in the answer. And every topic, nowadays the new trend in UPSC is, he is also Googling, and mostly, he is also Googling, and mostly Wikipedia say, IP leaders say, this site says picking up data straight away. See, many a times it so happens, this sentence seems very simple but confusing. Whether it is completely right or wrong. There is one question on Alps, I don't know whether it was added to you or not. I gave some 50 questions to them, whichever they added I don't know. There was a question on Alps. When I googled about Alps, there is ocean of data. Now this guy can pick up from anywhere and anything he can ask. Recently your PM is visiting or visited, no, that Mangad Dham. Mangad. I am telling you, PM visits, PM speeches are important. Issues on which he is giving speeches are important. उधर से क्वेश्चंस आएंगे, 4 से 5 क्वेश्चन. प्रीलिम्स में 100% पीएम किसके ऊपर बात कर रहा है, वाइस प्रेसिडेंट किसके ऊपर बात कर रहा है, उस इश्यू से क्वेश्चंस आएंगे. Not required to know the depth of the place and other things, but basic dimensions. If this question comes, Mangad Dham, your Prime Minister is about to visit this Dham. Now if you do not know where it is, if you do not know the connection of Bhil community with this Mangad Dham, you will not be able to write the answer. So the moment you see this, because this place has got historical relevance. 1913, a revolt was organized by a person by name Govindram against the Britishers in this particular place called Mangad. So it became a big temple there and people are starting visiting that temples now. So that is how he is connecting a historical event with his visit and a community that is dwelling in that area. So definitely a question will either come from this or the question will come from the historical perspective related to Mangadham. So that is how you will have to say newspaper जब पढ़ते हो, whatever source other than whatever I am giving you in the current affairs, if you are reading anything, see current affairs, take it in writing from me, in prelims 35 to 40% करंट अफेयर से ही आता है. 35 to 40%. इफ यू आर स्ट्रॉन्ग इन करंट अफेयर्स 35% कहीं नहीं गया. 35% मीन्स 70 मार्क्स स्ट्रेट अवे यू विल गेट फ्रॉम करंट अफेयर्स 100%. In mains the percentage increases to 55 to 60%, and in interview it is more or less 90%. Hardly they will ask you anything from optional. अगर कुछ पूछ लिया तो पूछ लिया, otherwise they will not ask. So just see the dimension which is so important. Do not neglect that dimension. And from day one, try to always have two sources preparing for current affairs. If you are preparing current affairs, say for example institution A, do not take the test series of that same institution. Take the test series of institution B, so that whatever this guy would have missed for some reasons or by chance would definitely appear in that institution paper B. So do not rely only one source for your current affairs. It is ocean. Believe me, current affairs is a ocean. Nobody can say I have mastered the entire current affairs. You ask anything what you want. So because it is an ocean, try to gauge which booklet or which institution is giving you right source, and depend on that as a basic this thing, and go for some other renowned or any place where you feel good questions are being asked as part of the test series program. So that is how comprehensive coverage of the entire current affairs will happen. Okay? And for seniors, newspaper reading is a must. For newspaper reading is definitely a must for all of you. Hindu or Indian Express, it is your choice. Because if you do not read the newspaper, even though you would cover current affairs from other sources, the seriousness to mains preparation will not come if you do not read the newspaper. So please definitely read the newspaper. Chalo, with this we will start the first topic. The first topic is on what? First topic is on what? Hate speech. What are the laws governing hate speeches in India? Is there any rule book, rule position on hate speech in India? अरे yesterday this guy was convicted, no? क्या नाम था उसका? आजम, क्या नाम? आजम खान, ना? हाँ, he got 3 years punishment, no? For hate speech. So now, what is the rule position on hate speech? What are the constitutional provisions on hate speech? I had sent this article on Telegram. अरे कोई खोल के पढ़ भी रहा है? एक पोस्ट अगर मैंने भेजा है टेलीग्राम में, उस पर क्लिक करके एटलीस्ट द वन दैट आई हाईलाइटेड उसको भी पढ़ोगे तो इनफ है. अब मैं तुम्हारे रूम में आके पवन ओपन जेरा सार पंपिंचारू, आई कैन नॉट डू दैट, राइट? व्हाई यू गाइज आर नॉट सीरियस? बताओ. यू डोंट वांट गुड फीमेल्स टू गेट मैरिड टू? यू डोंट वांट 2 crores 5 crores डाउरी? यू डोंट वांट? नहीं तो फिर वही मिलेगा. देख लो, शादी अच्छे घर में होना है, अच्छी लड़की मिलना है तो यूपीएससी पास होना जरूरी है, नहीं तो नहीं मिलेगा. या गर्लफ्रेंड से ही शादी करनी है तब भी यूपीएससी पास करना बहुत जरूरी है, वरना पापा गोली मार देगा. आई एम टेलिंग यू बिकम सीरियस यार. थोड़ा ओपन करके देखो, उसमें से क्वेश्चंस आर देयर. इंडियन एक्सप्रेस में बहुत अच्छे आर्टिकल्स आते हैं. आई एम पिकिंग अप सेलेक्टिव आर्टिकल्स फ्रॉम इंडियन एक्सप्रेस. आई एम शेयरिंग विथ यू. Please read them. They are very informative in nature. If you go back and see, you will realize what kind of articles I am sharing. I am putting in my efforts, but you are not putting in your efforts. नहीं रखोगे, I am telling you, this is the most easiest exam to pass, provided you are committed, consistent, and what you call doing a little amount of hard work. It does not want any analytical, what you call capabilities of any student. Anybody who can count from 1 to 10, who can write from A to Z alphabets, he or she can pass the exam, provided you are committed to yourself. नहीं तो नहीं होगा. ठीक है, चलो. What are the provisions related to hate speech? कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में कहाँ है हेट स्पीच के बारे में? अच्छा, राइट टू फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच एंड एक्सप्रेशन. राइट टू फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच एंड एक्सप्रेशन इज देयर. आर्टिकल 19 of the constitution talks about right to freedom of speech and expression. and the same article 19 subsection 2, it talks about restrictions on the freedom of speech and expressions. And what are these restrictions? Anyone? Majorly, don't have to exactly name me. What is the first restriction on? National security, national unity, in the spirit of maintaining good relations with international countries. If anybody speaks anything ill about it, his freedom of speech and expression can be restricted. There are certain laws in IPC and CRPC. What is the difference between IPC and CRPC? What is the difference between IPC and CRPC? What is the difference? I love this silence though, but still. Difference क्या है दोनों में, IPC और CRPC में? What is the difference? When you already, both are in news. राजनाथ सिंह ने कल ही स्टेटमेंट दिया, ये बहुत पुराने हो गए, इनको थोड़ा चेंज करने का टाइम आ गया है. That's what he said. No, we need to probably carry out some changes in the, some amendments are in the offing. That's what he said. Some major amendments are in the offing to match this IPC and CRPC, which is of British origin, right? So which is of British origin, we are planning to carry out some changes to this karke he made a statement. So now what are these changes required? If say for example a question comes, do you agree that the IPC and CRPC have British origin? It is high time that India should reconsider carrying out a overall change in the dimensions of judiciary, IPC and CRPC. Then you should know the entire history to write the answer. ऐसा ही सवाल पूछेगा UPSC में. So when you go back home, see the basic difference is he is only talking about procedure, very important. He is only talking about the procedure. Majorly he is only talking about the procedure, and he is talking about the rule book. See, there is something known as parallelity of law. In India, there are judicial constitution is one law book. You have, other than that, you have the IPC, you have the CRPC. Yesterday or day before, Modi said, now the police people across all the states should have similar uniform. The states suddenly said, no. Why? Because they said it is law and order is a state subject. Then immediately he made a statement, I am not saying that I want to impinge on your law and order. No. But I am saying that if you have a commonality in the uniforms of police forces, that fear for police would be consistent. That fear for police, whether you are in Punjab, Haryana, Delhi, Kerala or Madhya Pradesh, that the moment you see the uniform has got a detrimental effect value. The moment if you are wanting to do something wrong, the moment you see anybody in uniform, that it has a detrimental effect, it will stop you from carrying out the attack, at least it will deter you. If the change in the uniform is there, that deterrence may not be that strong. So as a child, saying there are some states where the police uniform is white in color, and suddenly you go to another state where you want to do some unparliamentary act, you see a khaki uniform, maybe that may not have the detrimental effect on your personality. So he says this is a uniform practice across the globe, that whether it is a state or center, the uniform is same. So it is high time that we should also go for a common uniform for all of them. So that is where things are changing. See, this is an ocean. This topic is an ocean. इसमें से बहुत सवाल आएंगे. Don't consider this topic as main topic only. Lot of questions in prelims also will come from governance. All these topics that we are discussing are part of governance only. See what it says. The Supreme Court on Friday said, it is tragic what we have reduced religion to in the 21st century, and a climate of hate prevails in the country. What he is saying, there is so much of climate of hate in this country that religion is being used as a subject to spread hatred across the communities. There is a word called blasphemy. हाँ, कौन बताएगा? There is a word called blasphemy. What is the difference between hate speech and blasphemy? Very good. Blasphemy is primarily related to spreading hatred on dimensions related to either religion, its belief system, please keep making note, its belief system, its practice, it could be religion itself, either its belief system or its practice. If you try to spread hatred, you have committed the crime of blasphemy. And Article 295A, Section 295A of the IPC, the Section 295A of the IPC defines this as a punishable offence. It says Section 295 of the IPC punishes any speech, writings or signs that with premeditated and malicious intent. Very, very important. When you write an answer, this should come premeditated and very important malicious intent. Premeditated and malicious intent. What you do? Insult citizens, religion or religious beliefs with a fine and imprisonment for up to 3 years. But when it comes to hate speech has not been defined anywhere. Hate speech has not been defined anywhere. Now, the basic difference between blasphemy and hate speech is, while blasphemy is restricted to religion and the dimensions related to religion, hate speech has a wider connotation. In hate speech, you can the target audience, it could be religion also. It could be religion also. It could be a group. It could be a group of people who may not be from a religious sect, but it could be ethnic. It could be against women. It could be against sexual orientation. It could be against any of these. What they are saying, very important. When I say group, in that group you can add this dimension of gender also. This dimension of gender also. What the 267th report on? 267th report of the Law Commission. Very, very important. The 267th report of the Law Commission. What it says? It says, it is stated, the hate speech is stated as an incitement to hatred primarily against a group of persons defined in the terms of race, religion, group, gender, sexual orientation, or what you call religious belief system and the like. So, it means that blasphemy, it means that the hate speech has a wider connotation when compared to blasphemy. But however, hate speech has not been defined anywhere as a punishable offence. Only the Law Commission report is talking about it. Because there is nothing defining, that is when we are taking the help of IPC and CRPC. That is why we are taking the help of, change the just flip over the page. It says, the Election Commission on Wednesday told the Supreme Court that there is no law on the hate speech in India, and that it has therefore been relying on the provisions of the IPC and the Representation of the People's Act. Why this came here? Why this came here? Why this came here? Basically hate speech or rumor mongering is basically done by the candidates during the campaigning time. So that is the reason why, to keep a restriction on their speech, the freedom of speech, certain provisions in the Representation of the People Act. Now your homework is, which section of the Representation of the People Act prohibits somebody from making any public statement which is regarded as hate speech? Which section? Yes, okay, good. So that is how you will have to do this homework. Like this you will have to study. Okay. one more dimension, the most important dimension. See, what the law enforcement authorities have been doing is, they were waiting for somebody to come and file the complaint. What the Supreme Court said, if the law enforcement agencies, the police forces or the state authorities, if in their own appreciation, if a particular act, a speech amounts to hate speech, you can take suo motu action. What is a suo motu action? Even in the absence of any complaint by a citizen, the state authorities can initiate police action against them. Very, very important statement related to hate speech. See, always remember, see, in a country, laws either constitutionally provided, either through statutory by passing of an act are provided. Supreme Court guidelines also work as law. That is also one form of creating a legal jurisprudence in India. So the rules and regulation, the case laws given by the Supreme Court also have that effect of law abidingness from the citizens. Okay? Very important. Next article. States should have a uniform policy and law and order. Uniform, again this will come both in governance and internal security. What Rajnath Singh is saying that, see, I told you this is what subject? This is a state subject. Now when it is a state subject, there is a high probability that one state would be strictly enforcing some dimension of social incorrectness in the society, and some state would be a little lenient on it. There is a high probability. Can anybody give me an example? Can anybody give me an example? There are some states where liquor consumption is a punishable offence. There are some states where liquor is openly sold, in some states by the state government itself, like your state. Now, if this is the case, it means there is a high probability that the adjoining states where the state has stopped liquor, there would be lot of mafiaism that will develop. So that is where there is no synchrony in the law and orders across the state. So that is why your home minister is saying, your defense minister is saying that we need to bring in a synchronous effort when it comes to law and order and maintenance of law and order. What it says, the home minister calls for concentration of data on terror and other crimes by following the principle of one data, one entry. Very good recommendation. What it says, the NIA had been entrusted with the task of maintaining a national terror database. He says the NIA is responsible to maintain the terror related database, and he says the enforcement directorate is is responsible to maintain data related to economic crimes or financial crimes, and the NCRB has been mandated to related to narcotic crimes. Now these are the agencies that are maintaining data. It means all the crimes, anything across the country, wherever it is happening, there is only one agency that is maintaining the database. Like your NSG is maintaining databases of NSG is maintaining the databases of
internal security,
bomb explosions. They study the bomb explosions across the country and they maintain the database, basically trying to decipher the pattern of attacks. That is the intention, to decipher the pattern of attacks. The NSG is doing this particular work. So that, like this, he says that each state to have a national investigation agency extraterritorial jurisdiction. See, you have this entity CBI. If CBI has to investigate a case, that state should give consent to CBI to carry out investigation. That requirement of consent does not come in the place of NIA. That is how they are saying NIA has extraterritorial jurisdiction. It means, say for example, there is a bomb blast in Hyderabad, for example. Okay? So KCR cannot say, I will not share the data with NIA. He cannot say. One, NIA has the authority to suo moto investigate a crime which it feels is a terror related crime. The moment it decides that it is a terror related crime, the NIA Act empowers the NIA and forces the state government to withdraw from investigation, and NIA takes over the investigation. So it means that it has extraterritorial jurisdiction on the law and order of the subject, which is a state subject. So like this, he is saying each state to have a national investigation agency extraterritorial jurisdiction and had given additional powers to confiscate property which is involved in terror related crimes. State should have a uniform law and order policy as certain crimes such as cross border terrorism and cyber crimes transcend regional and international boundaries. So two dimensions he is talking about. One dimension is related to cross border crimes and the second is related to cyber crimes. All the states should have equal, at least have a uniform legal policy. The states to utilize the NAT grid, very important. You know NAT grid, right? Or a NAT grid, National Intelligence Grid. 2020 only it got active. The NAT grid works under Ministry of Home Affairs. NAT grid बनाओ बॉक्स बनाओ. How NAT grid and NTRO are interrelated, थोड़ा वो पढ़ने की कोशिश करो, ठीक है. How NAT grid and NTRO are interrelated, how NSA is coming into picture, पढ़ो उसके बारे में. Then see, it's saying though law and order is a state subject, the constitution provides that the Ministry of Home Affairs could intervene in matters concerning national security. Very important. And then he is clubbing this case of, FCRA. FCRA stands for, Gautami, FCRA stands for Foreign Contributions Regulation Act. Foreign Contribution Regulations Act. See, we know that, say when you are watching a YouTube video, suddenly an ad springs up, no, somebody is ill or somebody's education, money, people are raising money. So raising voluntary donations, domestically, there are not very strict laws and regulations, okay? But when it comes to, if you want to raise donations from abroad, that is foreign contribution, and now this foreign contribution can be related to anything. It can be related to, very important, it can be related to religion, believe me. And two religions for whom lot of money comes into India is one Christianity, second is Islam. Lot of money comes from abroad for propagating the tenets of these two religion. It is allowed as per constitution also. Now the other dimension, it could be education, other dimension it could be health, other dimension it could be any social service or environment related dimension or any research related dimension. The research should not have a negative impact on the society or culture of that particular country. So this is one area where this was in news. RGF and one more Rajiv Gandhi Trust, these two trusts were, their license of these two trusts were cancelled. Now he says that the FCRA was a mandatory requirement to receive foreign fundings. Very important line. FCRA is a mandatory requirement to receive foreign funding. If it is domestically, that is the reason why the name is funding, but who is controlling? Ministry of Home Affairs is controlling. And it says that, and one more dimension that you need to understand, an individual or an NGO, they are authorized to collect this money from abroad, and every year they are supposed to submit annual statements. If they do not submit these annual statements in time, their licenses are bound to get cancelled. Okay? And once the license is cancelled, they have to wait for 3 years. Okay? And once the license is issued to you to get money, the validity of the license is the 5 years. The validity of the license is 5 years. If the government cancels your validity or registration or license, you can directly approach the High Court. You can directly approach the High Court. Okay? So, ये points related to FCRA again in news are important. Try to cover all of them. Okay? Now, the GAC, what is this? Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee gives its nod for commercial cultivation of GM mustard crop. What do you understand by commercial cultivation? What is the first step? The moment the GAC, the Genetic Engineering Approval Committee, the moment it says, okay, go ahead, yes, what is the first step that will happen in the market?
Proliferation of the seed.
Proliferation of the seed. Yes, the seed proliferation starts. This is when whatever the seeds that are created for the first time, those seeds will be called classification of seed. Box banao. Classification of seeds. Very, very important. There are 5 to 6 classifications. How they are different from each other, try to know the difference. Okay? Now, the moment proliferation of seeds happen, that is when the commercial production happens. That is when the commercial production happens. That is when for the farmers will for the first time use these seeds for cropping or cultivation, whatever, for cropping. Okay? Now, it says that the GAC that functions under the Ministry of Environment and पूरा नाम क्या है? Environment and एनवायरमेंट है, फॉरेस्ट है, क्लाइमेट चेंज है. ठीक है? क्लाइमेट चेंज रिसेंटली एडेड. प्लीज ट्राई टू सी ऑल मिनिस्ट्रीज डिपार्टमेंट्स का एक चार्ट बनाओ. प्लीज अपने टेबल के सामने रखो. विच डिपार्टमेंट, विच मिनिस्ट्री, विच मिनिस्ट्री, विच पर्टिकुलर इंपॉर्टेंट इंस्टीट्यूशन वर्किंग अंडर दैट. ये थीमेटिक चार्ट्स बना के अपने टेबल के सामने रखो. 1-2 सवाल मिलेगा यूपीएससी में. ठीक है? नाउ इट सेज दैट it gave its what you call clearance to the proposal for commercial cultivation of genetically modified crops. See, the GAC had given its yes in 2017 only. In 2017 only the GAC had given approval to the mustard crops, but what happened is the ministry said no. The ministry said no. This is when in 2017 RSS made lot of noise. The moment they heard this word genetic, they said no. So we all know BJP is the frontal organization of some dimensions. So that is how the go ahead was not given by the ministry to GAC under the pressure of some other institution. So finally this has been given. The GAC had gone through the details submitted by the applicant. Please Google about this institution, Center for Genetic Manipulation of Crop Plants. Very, very important institution. This Center for Genetic Manipulation of Crop Plants. This institution and one more, the Indian Council of Agricultural Research. इन दोनों के बारे में research करिए. 5 lines, 4 lines. Write notes in your notebook. It says that who is the applicant in this case? The applicant is the Center for Genetic Manipulation of crop plants and gave necessary approvals for the cultivation of this particular GM mustard crop. But one thing that you need to understand is it is not one time approval and for lifelong you can go for production. This is meant only for 4 years. If you just flip over the page, I think somewhere it should be written. Yeah, it includes that the approval is for a limited period of 4 years and is renewable for 2 years at a time based on certain compliance reports. Now compliance report ko underline karo. What are these compliances? What all they are supposed to comply with? Who is supposed to comply? To whom the report is supposed to be sent, and what if they do not comply? Google about these directions. Very, very important information you will get. Okay, what is this compliance report? Who is supposed to give to whom, and what if they do not comply, and what if the compliance report in itself is not submitted in time. Okay. Now it says that when you go back, it says that a GAC meeting held on October 18 allowed the environmental release of 2 varieties of genetically engineered mustard so that it can be used for developing new parental lines and hybrids under the supervision of ICAR. Now the box is role of ICAR in genetically modified seeds. The role of ICAR in genetically modified seeds. What is the role of ICAR? Because under the supervision of the ICAR. The ICAR guidelines mandates that the research scientists of the ICAR will visit the sites of cultivation and keep an eye on the growth of the plant and try to find out if there is any genetic modification beyond the scope, if at all it is happening. Okay, that's the role. Then the environmental release of the mustard hybrid DMH11 for its seed production and testing as per the existing ICAR guidelines and other extant rules and regulations prior to commercial release. Very, very important. See, in the last line, the applicant should also develop and deposit the DNA fingerprints बोल के लिखा है. Now, what are these DNA fingerprints related to a crop? What are the dimensions of the DNA fingerprints related to a particular crop? वो ICAR को submit करना होता है. तो try to research a little about this DNA fingerprints about related to crops. ठीक है? Very important. Next, again governance. Animal rights. Man is also an animal, but nobody is talking of our rights. Yeah. Why this issue came? First line says, in view of the rising cases of stray dogs menace, the Supreme Court of India said that a balance has to be maintained between the safety of the people and the animal rights. The court suggested that people who feed stray dogs could be made responsible. Could be. The word is could. R nahi hai. The word is could be made responsible for vaccinating them and bearing the cost if somebody is attacked by the animal. So now could be जैसे Supreme Court बोला, if at all somebody files a case against somebody, that police authority or the local authority will draw inference from this direction and issue directions to that particular individual. ठीक है? That is one. Then what is the need to address the fundamental issue? The issue raises even more a fundamental issue regarding rights of wild animals within the society dominated by human beings in general and within the framework of the constitution in particular. So there are 2 dimensions in the constitutions, that is the DPSP and the fundamental duties that speak about the animal rights or the responsible behavior of humans towards the animal rights. It says that 48A states that the state shall endeavor to protect and improve the environment and safeguard the forests and wildlife of the country. Very, very important. And 51 AG states it is to be a duty of every citizen of India to protect and improve the natural environment including forests, lakes, rivers and wildlife, and to have compassion for living creatures. More importantly, further, the state and concurrent list have been assigned the following items about animal rights. Very, very important. In the state subject, The state list item is 14 animal rights, when in the concurrent subject it is the list item 17 and 17b. It is not 178, 17 and 17b, prevention of animal cruelty and the protection of wild animals and birds. Okay? Then what are the important laws? IPC section 428 and 429. 428 and 429 also talk about this. It says the IPC, which is the Official Criminal Code of India, covers substantive aspects of criminal law. Section 428 and 429 of the IPC provides for punishment of all acts of cruelty such as killing, poisoning, maiming or rendering useless of animals. What is maiming? What is maiming? M-A-I-M-I-N-G. Dr. Sahab. What is maiming? M-A-I-M-I-N-G. Maiming. Increasing. हाँ, कौन बताया? कोई है डॉक्टर और कोई? Interbreeding or crossbreeding? No. हाँ, हाँ, to the private parts of the animal. हाँ. It is basically physically making an effort to damage the personal body parts of the animal with an intention to stop it from further breeding is called maiming. So that is what you should not be found doing any of this. See, because this is supposed to be done by veterinarian doctors, but not by anybody on the road. If you pick up a stone and hit it at the wrong place, maybe it will have a detrimental effect on its health. So that is why maiming is also a punishable offence. The Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act of 1960, this is a statutory law. The objective of this act is to prevent the infliction of unnecessary pain or suffering on animals and to amend the laws relating to the prevention of cruelty to animals. And one more authority is the Wildlife Protection Act, very very important from prelims perspective. What are the various safeguards provided? उसके आगे लिखो, what are the various safeguards provided? What is the categorization of animals which can be hunted? All these dimensions also make a list. Categorization, which animals can be hunted or killed in wildlife. All these dimensions, please make a note. Very important. 100% a question will come next year prelims from this particular article in some or the other dimension. So please be ready to prepare all the important points related to this particular article. या तो प्रिवेंशन ऑफ क्रूएल्टी टू एनिमल एक्ट के ऊपर आएगा 1960, वाइल्ड लाइफ प्रोटेक्शन एक्ट के ऊपर आएगा 1972, आईपीसी प्रोविजंस के ऊपर आएगा, या डीपीएसपी या फंडामेंटल ड्यूटीज, कुछ ना कुछ मेंशन करके आपको एक आर्टिकल बनाने के लिए देगा. ठीक है. नाउ व्हाट इज द नेक्स्ट इश्यू? द नेक्स्ट इश्यू अबाउट द कैपिटल एडिक्वेसी रेशियो. द नेक्स्ट इश्यू इज अबाउट द कैपिटल एडिक्वेसी रेशियो. What is this capital adequacy ratio? कौन बताएगा? हाँ, economy optional कौन है? Capital adequacy ratio. Do we need an economy optional student to explain CR? हाँ, CRAR क्या नाम है? फुल फॉर्म? अरे CRAR का फुल फॉर्म? हाँ, कैपिटल टू थोड़ा कॉन्सेप्ट समझाता हूँ, आर्टिकल इजी हो जाएगा फ्रेशर्स के लिए. ठीक है. वैशाली, अगर कुछ समझ में नहीं आता है तो घबराना नहीं, इन सबको तुमसे ज़्यादा नहीं पता है, वो ऐसे ही बड़बड़ कर रहे हैं. ठीक है. तो डोंट गेट फ्राइटेंड सीइंग एट देम. ठीक है. इट्स ओनली अ मैटर ऑफ टाइम, यू विल आल्सो बी एबल टू टेल. अच्छा, नाउ कैपिटल से क्या समझते हो? कैपिटल से क्या समझते हो? कैन आई यूज द वर्ड इनिशियल इन्वेस्टमेंट? इनिशियल इन्वेस्टमेंट इज कैपिटल. इस इनिशियल इन्वेस्टमेंट हैज बीन डिवाइडेड इनटू टू पार्ट्स, टियर 1 कैपिटल, टियर 2 कैपिटल, इन सम प्लेसेस टियर 3 कैपिटल इज ऑल्सो देयर. वो क्या है? नन ऑफ यू इज सपोज टू नो, डोंट नो. सो CRAR should be 9% is what the Basel norms are saying. There is a something norm called Basel norms or Basel norms, whatever you call it. It says that your CRAR should be 9%. It means 9% is equal to your capital divided by risk weighted asset. Now understand, for any bank, what is an asset? The loan it extends to somebody is an asset. See, there is a bank here. This is the bank. This bank name is SBI. You deposit money in the bank. This deposit for the bank is a liability because the bank is duty bound to return that money to you as and when you want it with interest. Yes or no? And the money that you have deposited, the bank will lend loan to somebody on which it will earn again interest. So this is basically an asset to the bank which is generating revenue profits to the bank, right? Now he is saying 9% should be capital divided by risk weighted assets. Listen to me carefully. He is saying the RBI said the CRAR should be 9%. It means when I divide my capital by the risk weighted asset, the result should be 9%. Or yes or no? It should be more, it cannot be less. So this is the minimum stipulated percentage of CRAR which the bank has, the RBI has mandated to all the banks. It means that if this goes down, it means the denominator is higher than the numerator. It means you are taking too much of risk. You are taking too much of risk. Now, what do you understand by this risk weighted asset? Try to understand. I will take 2 minutes. A bank is there. Vijay Mallya goes to the bank and asks for 100 crores of loan. At the same time, Reliance owner also goes to the bank and asks for loan. At the same time, a government project is also coming up. A company went and asked loan. Now, in these 3 dimensions, if I measure, where is the least amount of risk? Government project. At least the government will pay back. आज नहीं तो कल मोदी का लंगोट पकड़ूंगा तो पेमेंट तो कर ही देगा. The second risk, least risk is Reliance. The third least risk is Vijay. The third most risk is Vijay Mallya. This is what our appreciation is. Same way. Another example. A salaried employee goes. He says, "Sir, मुझे घर खरीदना है, पैसे दो." One salaried employee goes and says, "I need to purchase a motorcycle. Please give me loan." And one more person goes and says, "I need personal loan. बेटी की शादी करनी है." So these are 3 people, same person, 3 people on the same day coming to the bank. In these 3 dimensions, where is the risk is the highest? In the personal loan, because one, there is no collateral. There is no collateral. So there is a high, and the expenditure is an expenditure and not an investment for him, because nothing will come back. दामाद तो सैलरी तो देगा नहीं अगले महीने से. So he will have to do something to earn money and give you back the interest and the principal return. The second risk is motorcycle, because if he purchase the motorcycle today, runs it for 6 months and the loan period is for 1 year, there is a depreciation value for the vehicle. If he stops making payment after 6 months, even if I pick up the vehicle, maybe the selling price of the vehicle, second hand vehicle, may not get me back that 6 months of installment. So again there is a risk. But in case of a house, the risk is minimized to some extent, because even if he does not give, I can confiscate the property and then sell it, maybe at a premium also. And if I am selling it at premium, whatever is due was to me, I will keep that, remaining amount I will hand it over to him. So in this case also the risk is defined. So in banking parlance, different types of customers risk is already decided. So if you are giving to government, पहले क्या था, in the accounting parlance, loans given to government had 0 risk. Then it was felt that now, because the governments across countries were defaulting, obviously Pakistan defaulted, Sri Lanka defaulted, Myanmar defaulted, Nepal defaulted, your countries like your Zimbabwe, they all African countries have defaulted. So internationally it was felt even the government loan should not be 0 risk. we need to assign some amount of risk, 1%, 2%, 3%, we leave it to you, but you assign some risk even to government. So in that case, if you have to maintain this 9%, either you have to maintain a strong capital base or reduce the risk, yes or no, or reduce the risk. If it is a public sector bank, it means it is owned by the simple, it is owned by the government. If a bank is owned by the government, the responsible to maintain adequate capital is the responsibility of the government only. That is why you see these schemes, Indradhanush, capital infusion schemes, Indradhanush scheme by the government. The government released in this budget 80,000 crores for infusing into the public sector banks. That is the aim, because it is mandated they need to maintain 9%. The second is to reduce the risk. If I have to reduce the risk only, it means most of my loans would be extended to government only. If this is happening, it means it will create a crowding out effect for the private players. The private players will not get easy loans. If they do not get easy loans, there is no private growth happening, there is no private investment coming in. So they need to maintain that balance. That is the reason why instead of doing this, the governments and the banks are forced to increase this to maintain this 9%, right? अरे समझ में आया कि नहीं? कि कोई है जिसको नहीं समझ में आया? If you want me to repeat, I'll repeat. थोड़ा थोड़ा समझ में आया? Good. कोई बात, थोड़ा भी अगर समझ में आएगा तो I am successful. ठीक? No problem. Now, what is the news? What is the news? न्यूज क्या है? एक बैंक है जिसका नाम है धनलक्ष्मी. धनलक्ष्मी नाम लिखा है लेकिन काम उसके पूरे उल्टे है. ठीक है, नाम धनलक्ष्मी. क्या बोलता है? The RBI has recently placed Dhanalakshmi Bank under tight monitoring. They is using the word. See, RBI is the regulator of all the banks. RBI is the regulator of all the banks. He will have to keep a close watch on all the banks and their functioning. So the RBI recently said Dhanalakshmi Bank is not doing well. What is happening here? He says that the RBI's move comes in the wake of intense court battle waged by a group of minority shareholders. Very, very important. Waged by a group of minority shareholders. It is a private bank. Remember, Dhanalakshmi Bank is a private bank not owned by the government. So in that ownership, there is a minority ownership. What these people said? Minority shareholders against the bank's management team over inadequate financial disclosures. Very, very important. It says they did not do adequate. So inadequate financial disclosures happened. And then what? What is the second point? Rising management cost. क्या है second point? क्या है? Rising management expenses, rising expenses, and general mismanagement is happening. In this backdrop, these minority shareholders went to the court, and what it was found, Dhanalakshmi's capital to risk weighted assets ratio dropped to 13% at the end of the March this year from 14.5% a year ago. But it is still not below 9%. Understand? From 14.5%, it came down to, it is still adequate beyond the prescribed norms of 9%, but the fall is steep. 1.5% fall is actually steep. The fall is steep. So it gives a signal of the deteriorating financial health of the bank. So the RBI invoked this clause and put it under something known as prompt corrective action. So it put it under something known as prompt corrective action. The moment you are under PCA, what will happen? 3 steps, 3 points. One is not allowed. Second, okay, dividend distribution, announcing the dividend distribution. Third, मैनेजमेंट को पनिश करना ऑब्जेक्टिव है. No substantive increase in the pay and perks of the management. This is the most important punishment that, see, these private banks and banks heads get huge amount of money. Raghuram Rajan, for being the governor of RBI, got 2.5 lakhs. The ICICI Chanda Kochar got close to 10 to 12 crores. ये किधर है और वो किधर है? See, the amount of money these private bank holders, the heads of the private bank is very high. So if the bank puts a restriction on increasing that, definitely they are forced to act the way the bank is asking them to act. So by invoking the PCA, they try to indirectly control the functioning of the bank. Okay? Yeah. The bank has even been placed under the PCA framework by the RBI to deal with serious deterioration in the financial position. Under the PCA, the RBI places restrictions on lending and keeps a close eye on them until their financial position improves sufficiently or substantially. So ये सारी चीज़ें मैंने आपको समझा दी हैं वैसे. All these things I have already told you. Yeah.
Why RBI is acting right now, sir? Because anyways it has reduced to 13%. Before it was 14%. Why not the RBI has acted at that time, sir?
See, कैसा होता है? See, your risk appreciation as a bank, my risk appreciation as a regulator, minority shareholders appreciation of the risk is completely different. See, RBI is not saying Dhanalakshmi in isolation. RBI might be comparing other banks also. Maybe it is a cross-sectional, what you call observation, where the financial positions of the banks are going down. Maybe they are victims of COVID. Dhanalakshmi happens to be one of the well-managed banks, as far as I know. But this is probably a negative effect of the COVID or post-COVID syndrome. So that is the reason why, even if it sees like this, the bank probably waited. The halla has been created by the minority stakeholders because they are fearing that something wrong is happening, that our financial position is come. What is their real intent, we do not know. What is their real intent, we do not know. So that is how, see, the problem is, you have to understand the cascading effect of the decision by RBI. If any decision by RBI is impulsive, it will have a detrimental effect on the bank. The moment the bank is put under PCA, there is something known as bank rush. People will start lining up outside the bank, mera paisa do. So already the situation is bad. Already the situation is bad. And if the people withdraw money also, that will have another negative effect on the bank. So that is the reason why that drop of the hat decisions are not taken. It takes some time to take a try to understand. Yeah, somebody else was also asking. They have to infuse capital, issue shares. There are many types of shares. There is something known as rights issue. There is. Ha beta?
It may lead to deflation.
Deflation.
Money
Yes.
will come to bank, not with paper. Money supply will reduce.
No, but that is investment, no? See, the money supply, see, I am not investing, purchasing the share from cash. My money is already in some bank. So the supply of money has not increased. It is only change of hands. See, always remember, money is available in fixed quantity. It is always available in fixed quantity. It is only that there is one-way movement of money from poor people to rich people. Always remember this. Money is, because RBI prints, there is a definite amount of money. Because that printing is not blindfolded printing, no. It is based on the amount of old money that is coming back to RBI. Based on that, what is the economic position? See, box bano, chala. What are the criteria for deciding the money supply in the market? Who decides? Who decides? How it is decided? What are the criteria for deciding what should be the currency supply in the market? Very, very important. See, understand, money supply is only one dimension. Money supply is only a one dimension of the economy. If the currency supply is say 20 lakh crores, it does not mean the size of your economy is 20 lakh crores. The size of the economy will be much more bigger Because there is something known as money multiplier effect. Because of that, the size of the economy is much more bigger. Lot of money is coming from outside also. Lot of money is coming from outside also. So it is only to ensure, because the supply of money in some dimension has the ability to affect inflation in short term also. So that is the reason why there is always a restriction on the supply of money in the market to ensure that inflation is not there. When they are going for increasing the capital, if the government has to infuse capital, it has to budget it. Or yes or no? It has to budget it. Yes or no? If the government has to give, from the budget only the money will come, no? Or the government will raise money. There are many ways the government can raise money: by issue of bonds, the issue of bonds. If the bond is for less than a year, it is called it is called treasury bills. अरे इतने साइलेंस क्यों? अरे बोलते क्यों नहीं हो? हाँ, if it is for 3 years, gilt edged securities, GS. एक कहावत है, पढ़ पढ़ पोतियां पंडित न मोया. मीन द मोर यू रीड द लेस यू नो. हाँ, ऐसा कैसे होगा? बोलना नहीं है. इट शुड नॉट बी लास्ट इन फर्स्ट आउट. इट शुड नॉट बी लास्ट इन फर्स्ट आउट. व्हाट इज द यूज ऑफ लास्ट इन फर्स्ट आउट? इट जनरली हैपन्स विद मी. पुराना वाला डिलीट, नया वाला एंट्री. यस और नो? इसको हिंदी नहीं आता है, दैट्स द ब्यूटीएस्ट पार्ट. इसको हिंदी में कुछ भी बोल सकते हैं. गुड. चलो, या I was telling about this capital. If the government has to infuse this capital, it will have two dimensions: through budget or through public raising of money through public. If it is a private bank, in this case it is a private bank. Now if they have to improve this from 13% to 14 or 15%, what is the way? Two things. One is either reduce the risk. One is either reduce the risk or increase the capital. If you have to increase the capital, again you have to go for shares. Again you have to go for listing of shares. Now what are the various types of shares that can be issued? बनो बॉक्स बनो. What is rights issue, what is private issue, what is public issue? बहुत सारे है ना. हाँ, different types of issues of shares. Issue of shares. When the shares are available to open public, if it is a rights issue, already the shareholders can only participate in that particular issue, so that the diversification of shareholding does not happen. Within the same set of shareholders, more money is raised, automatically your capital will go up. If the denominator goes up, denominator more or less remains the same, obviously the end result will go up. अरे बेसिक मैथमेटिक्स, मेरे को इससे ज़्यादा मैथ्स नहीं आता. ठीक है, चलो नेक्स्ट. 75 new digital banking units in India. 75 new digital banking units in India. Now what is a digital banking unit? कौन बताएगा? Digital banking unit. Yeah, what is a digital banking unit? व्हाट इज द डिजिटल बैंकिंग यूनिट? ये सारे टॉपिक्स जो तुमको डेली करंट अफेयर्स दे रहा हूँ ना, उसी में से है. मैं कुछ अलग से बना के नहीं लाया हूँ. आई हैंड पिक मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट एंड आई डिस्कस दिस इन द क्लास. अब बोलो, इट इज अ डायरेक्ट मैसेज दैट यू पीपल आर नॉट रीडिंग द डेली करंट अफेयर्स. हाँ, शैल आई स्टॉप गिविंग फ्रॉम टुमारो? मेरे रोज का 2 घंटा बच जाएगा. आई कैन वॉच ए मूवी. हाँ अमरीश. What is a DBU? Digital bank. Have you ever been to any place where so many ATMs are there? Maybe some deposit machine, some withdrawal machines are there. Or yes or no? These are nothing but your DBUs, digital banking units only. It means, see, there are two dimensions. One, why. Two, for whom. Three, what is the purpose? See, if there is a bank, say by name SBI, वो ज़माना चला गया. When you go to the bank, take a token, withdraw your money, withdrawal slip, checks and all, the time is gone. Now the bank does not want you to come to the bank. वो बोलता है यार don't show me your ugly face. You have already 100 rupees, you come 10 times a day. ठीक है? Please do not come. Why? Because if you go to the bank, it has an expenditure dimension on the bank. You will go, you will ask for a withdrawal slip. The withdrawal slip का printing cost होगा. You getting my point? I have to place one teller for you. If more people are coming, one teller will not be able to do the job. I need to place additional tellers. Again उसको salary देना पड़ेगा, उसका pension देना पड़ेगा. See, bank is saying, I don't want people to come to my branch. Once the account is opened, please do not come to me ever till such time you don't die. Now, but I have to ensure and give you everything that you need not come to the bank. In this case, I need to provide you ATMs. That is how ATMs have come wherever you can. Now the second stage was, after this digitization have happened, phone pay and all those things, we have stopped going to ATMs also. Now that's what he is saying. But for in some dimensions, for deposits and check deposits, for other bank related functions, we might have to go to the bank. Now the banks are saying, for this also you should not come to me. It means once your account is open, अपना चेहरा दोबारा मत दिखाओ मुझे. If you want anything on some crossroads at important junctions, I will place these DBUs. You go and do everything whatever you want there, and there will not be physically any person present there, but we will digitally assist you. So there would be some dimensions wherein there is some assisted banking facility that is provided, wherein you can do everything there A to Z. Even maybe application of loans, even maybe some fixed deposits making, receipts taking, everything you do there. So they are in the process of something known as digitization, because if the digitization increases, the costing comes down to the bank. So that is how. What about illiterates? అదే ఆర్టికల్ దాని గురించి ఉంది. We'll come to that. What they are saying, now that he is asked a question, what about a person, a farmer or somebody, but don't classify all the farmers to be illiterates. There are some farmers who are literates also, probably more than you and me. See, bank staff will be available to help and guide users for banking transactions in assisted mode. See, this bank staff does not mean for every machine there will be a person. Maybe overall they will employ one person who is taking care of all the dimensions, the upkeep of the vehicle, the machine and the functioning of the machine, and assisting anybody who is an illiterate, as the point he has brought out. But it is again assisted mode, very important. It is assisted mode. If it is an assisted mode, it need not necessarily mean that there has to be physically a person. A person will be there, but assisted mode means it could be through or a recorded video format also, or could be through a call center खोल देगा, हो जाएगा, all done. Okay, so that is how they are trying to reduce the going to the bank concept. That is all about your digitization, digital banking units. Okay, that the difference you see, balance sheet and legal personalities. DBUs do not have legal personality and are not licensed under the Banking Regulation Act 1949. Very important point for your prelims. Legally they are equivalent to banking outlets, that is branches. Digital banks will have a balance sheet and legal personality and are proposed to be duly licensed banks under the Banking Regulation Act 1949. Proposed to be, underline the word proposed to be. Okay? Level of innovation and all, it is self-explanatory, you can read through it. Okay? Just see, everything they are giving. DBU services. Services being offered through DBU include banking facilities, opening of savings account, balance check, printing passbook, transfer of funds, investment in fixed deposits, loan applications, stop payment instructions, checks issued, application for credit debit cards, view statement of account, paying of taxes, paying of bills, nomination changes, etc. Will also facilitate onboarding to government credit link schemes through the Jan Samarth portal and end-to-end digital processing of small ticket MSME retail loans also. End-to-end processing means you don't have to go to the bank branch, everything can be done then and there itself. That is the aim of this particular thing, right? The next article is on ease reforms. What is this ease reforms? Enhanced access and service excellence. Enhanced access and service excellence. Enhanced access. Whose access? Whose access? हाँ, whose access? जल्दी बताओ. ओए पढ़ो आर्टिकल, मार खाओगे. Enhanced access. Access of whom to whom? The access of RRBs to give you differentiated loans. See, generally the functioning of RRBs, it is felt that they are restricting their transactions to farm loans only. So this is primarily intended to enhance the access of the regional rural banks for other minor credit requirements of the small and marginal farmers and the industrial entities. So that is what they are trying to do. As part of the ease reforms, the government is planning to leverage. Leverage means open up avenues, okay, for regional rural banks to expand their portfolio by adding new segments of credit facilities. So that is where, other than the crop loans, they will also provide loans for purchase of tractors, small businesses in rural areas, and education and housing loans too in rural areas. The center is working on a proposal to raise the guarantee limit for education from 7.5 to 10 lakhs also. After 2 consecutive years of COVID-19, finally they got a profit. That is how it is important. See, the most important advantage of doing anything with RRBs is because of their strong rural presence. Because of their strong rural presence, immediately the effect will go to the rural areas. That is the most important advantage. So 5 stages of ease reforms: ease 1, ease 2, ease 3, ease 4, ease 5. What is ease 4? What is ease 4? What is ease 4? PSBs to tech enabled, tech enabled and customer centric digitization transformation. What we spoke about, it is at the ease 4 or ease 5 level. And what is the last E5? Invest in new age capabilities and deepen the ongoing reforms to respond to the evolving customer needs, changing competition and the technological environment. Very, very important dimension, ease reforms. This is one of the latest reforms when it comes to the banking sector. So you should be aware of this. Make a list. Recent reforms in the banking sector. Recent, ये template होना चाहिए आपका. Recent reforms in the banking sector. It will go into 3 to 4 pages. Just make heading. What is the main purpose of that particular reform? That's all. Recent reforms in the banking sector, starting from debit card, what you call credit card, tokenization, digitization, data localization, the PCF frameworks, all these dimensions should come in 3 to 4 pages. So everything related to banking sector at one particular place. Definitely 1 or 2 questions in prelims will come from that 3 to 4 pages that you will make notes of. The last article for today, what is the article about? The article is about the Central Bureau of Investigations. 2 types of consents. One is general consent and the second is specific. One is general, the other is specific consent. Now try to understand, as we have minorly studied. What is law and order is a state subject. Law and order is a state subject. So if the CBI has to investigate a crime, I told you there is a consent of the state government which is mandatory. Yes or no? So ease of functioning, for the ease of functioning, what the state governments generally do is they tend to give general consent to CBI. The moment you give general consent to CBI, for every single case CBI need not come back to the government, state government and ask for a consent. So it becomes easier for CBI also to operate. But you have to understand, in a federal setup, see, two things the state government is very possessive about. One is law and order, and the second is, and these two happens to be the state list mein 1 and 2. The state list mein 1 and 2, and the state governments are very possessive about this particular right of there. So that is the reason why they do not want to part with their powers. But when it comes to CBI, we know that CBI, because of its structuring of the organization, it is kind of a, we call it a caged parrot. We call it a caged parrot. So it is basically, this central government is also many a times found to be using CBI for having political, to clear the political vendettas. So as a political tool the CBI has been using. More so, if the state government is an opposition to the central government, you will generally see that this general consent will not be available to the CBI, because they do not want CBI to get a free hand when it comes to law and order in their particular state. So in those cases, mostly it is observed, they will only give specific consent case to case basis, right? Now, why the article is in news? Because Maharashtra government, earlier when the previous government was there, they had given only specific consent. Now because the government has changed, now they have decided to give general consent to CBI. That is the reason why it is there. And this consent is very important. It is mandatory consent. This consent has to be given by the state government, right? The CBI is governed by the Delhi Special Police Establishment Act 1946, and it must mandatorily obtain the consent of the state government concerned before beginning to investigate a crime in a state. It is necessary or mandatory for the government, the CBI. The section 6 of the DSPE, consent of the state government to exercise powers and jurisdictions. Okay? It is very important. Then authority different from NIA. I told you NIA enjoys extraterritorial jurisdiction, but the CBI does not enjoy the extraterritorial jurisdiction. And general consent and specific consent also we have seen. From the current affairs perspective, just see, if you flip over the page, in 2022 Meghalaya became the 9th state to have withdrawn the consent to the CBI. Now because Maharashtra has given back the consent, it will be the 8th state. So there are total 8 states which have given only specific consent to CBI. How many states in total?
9.
How many states in total? 28. वो JNK के हटा दिया ना, हाँ 28. God save. So which are the states that have given only specific content now? Punjab, Rajasthan, West Bengal, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Kerala, Mizoram and Meghalaya. Please by heart the names. Maharashtra has removed. Now that is why it is only 8. Okay? See, Telangana, why it is? Because of the IT sector, no? Lot of financial frauds happen, and cyber security is one dimension. अब वो हर चीज़ के लिए अगर इससे पूछेगा तो रोज के 500 कॉल तो सीबीआई से आएंगे. तो तेलंगाना का सीएम बोला दे दे यार, साला सर में दर्द कम कर, ठीक. बिकॉज इफ द गवर्नमेंट स्टॉप्स दिस काइंड ऑफ कंसेंट्स, everything will go back to the CM to respond. He will not have time for this. See, the local police can disturb the functioning of CBI. The police is under him. वो वाली बात, ठीक है. या अबाउट दिस CBI, please make note some dimensions. It is also the nodal police agency in India which coordinates investigations on behalf of Interpol member countries. Please underline this role of CBI. About central CBI के बारे में first point, third point in about. So its origin we have discussed. It was set up by a resolution of the Ministry of Home Affairs in 1963. Very important, based on the recommendations of Santhanam Committee. The senior students would know this. It functions under the Department of Personnel, Ministry of Personnel, Pension and Public Grievances, not Ministry of Home Affairs. It is not under that. And generally this ministry is kept by the Prime Minister himself. This Ministry of Personnel, Pension and Public Grievances, generally the entire tenure of 10 years Manmohan Singh kept this ministry under his direct control. अभी किसके अंडर है? चेक करो. Who is the minister for this Ministry of Personnel? 100% it should be Modi only. I do not know, but just cross check. Generally the prime ministers only hold this particular ministry because of their this thing. There are certain important issues related to their independence, relationship between the state and central agencies. It is very easily understandable, plain English language. This was in news. Which country?
Australia.
No. Plain language. Act was passed by somebody. कैसा होगा रे तुम लोग का? Plain Language Act. What is this Plain Language Act? A country passed an act. Unnecessarily do not confuse people by using strong English words. Use simple English words so that the people understand the language. And that country passed an act. The act name is Plain Language Act. If you happen to confuse people by using tough words, if I was born there, definitely I would have been jailed. So if you use tough words in front of general public, you will be put behind the bars. Which is that country? UK तो English ही तो है वहाँ पे. He is very close. Australia. Research, Google करो. See, the act is not talking about English. Language should be plain, though it is targeting English only, but it is saying plain language use karo. Do not confuse people by using difficult language in the classroom when you are teaching for UPSC. ये बोला न्यूजीलैंड में, ठीक है? हाँ. So this is about the Plain Language Act. Though it is not specifying English language, but it is trying to control that only. ठीक है? Yeah. But ऐसा कैसा यार कि इतना सब कुछ मेरे you studying no current affairs? Yes. Studying? No. See, बिना current affairs के see I told you 100 times, probably this is 200th time. I am saying 3 static subjects: polity, history, economy. 4th pillar is current affairs. अगर ये 4 आपके strong है and with the blessings you have environment का support, you will end up getting 140 in prelims. But the problem is we do not study in that direction. ठीक है? 140, 135, 140 you will easily get. Only these 3 plus these 2, 5 subjects को अच्छे से करो, अपने आप 140, 130 प्लस आएगा, which is not required also, but आएगा. ठीक, चलो. Any questions? 135 आज थोड़ा जल्दी हो गया. I am also happy, है ना? जल्दी हो गया. हाँ.
Private bank owners की profits ఎక్కువ ఎందుకు వస్తాయి అంటే గవర్నమెంట్ బ్యాంక్ ఓనర్
బెటర్ మేనేజ్మెంట్
అంటే ఎక్కడ
అంటే 10 మనుషులు చేసే పనిని ఆయన ఒక్కరితో చేయించుకుంటాడు కాబట్టి.
ఇందాక చెప్పారు కదా ఇద్దరు పేరు ఎగ్జాంపుల్గా చెప్పారు. ఆర్బీఐ అతను శాలరీస్ ఏదో చెప్పారు కదా
ICICI Bank.
తన శాలరీ
See, you have to understand, RBI is not a profit motive organization. It is a non-profit organization. It is a government regulator, no? See, if he enters the market as a competitor, then nobody else can survive. So the aim of the RBI is not to make profits. It is making huge profits. That is different. because I am forcing you to keep your money CRR, SLR, again government. I am ensuring that the government is also earning money. No? If I remove SLR, government earning is gone. So I am earning CRR, it's heavy amount. You see the balance sheet of SBI, you will understand what is the amount. The SBI also बेचारे कोई 2-2.5 लाख रुपए तनख्वाह मिलेगा. But the private bankers, they get more because their management is very effective. That is the reason, and it is all about managing things. So that is how you need that kind of individuals with that intellect. So that is why they pay them like that. If you do not pay them at that level, there is high probability they will end up into corruption. That lady, even after paying Chanda Kochar, in trouble, no? So that's how these things happen. You have to pay them. If you don't pay them, they will go, because they are highly talented people, highly efficient people. Because they will compare. See, you are comparing yourself that you should get an IAS job. अब IAS job में 60,000 रुपये अकाउंट में आएगा 31st को, 60,000 rupees per month, 70,000, if you are lucky 80,000. उससे आगे जाएगा नहीं, because taxes and all those nonsense will happen. Hardly will get any money. But she will not work for 80,000. वो IIT में पढ़ा, IIM में पढ़ा, फॉरेन जाके MBA किया, वो 60,000 के लिए थोड़ी काम करेगा, उसको चाहिए 10-20 करोड़. ठीक. There was an article somewhere that her furniture allowance was more than the salary of some governor. It happens. ठीक. Yeah. Anybody else?
So the hate speech, what could be the ethical dimension of this? Legal ethical mechanism.
IPC. Ethical dimensions तो unending है यार. Hate speech का, see, आंसर आ गया.
सर गवर्नमेंट की వ్యతిరేకంగా మాట్లాడना కూడా హేట్ స్పీచ్. గవర్నమెంట్ కి వ్యతిరేకంగా ఆపోజిట్ గా మాట్లాడना కూడా హేట్ స్పీచ్ కాదు.
యూ క్యాన్ రైట్ టు డిసెంట్ అంటే వాడిని బూతులు తిట్టకుండా మాట్లాడాలి. యూ కెనాట్ బికమ్ అన్పార్లమెంటరీ ఇన్ యువర్. యూ క్యాన్ సే మోదీ ఈజ్ యూజ్లెస్, నో బడీ విల్ టెల్ యూ ఎనీథింగ్, but you have to prove that he is useless. There are many ways to prove, but still. Ethical dilemma, individual level hate speech. I am giving hate speech standing here. At individual level, how it will affect you? Say, I am giving hate speech on gender, and I am mixing gender and race. Individual level.
Patriarchy will be increased. Patriarchal mindset.
Changing that.
I never said I am supporting patriarchy. Khote.
Yes, you said gender.
I can be. Feminism also है. It only shows your mindset. Obviously.
Persuasion influence. You are inducing the persuasion.
See, एक चैप्टर है एथिक्स में. द चैप्टर इज एटीट्यूड. एटीट्यूड में देर इज समथिंग नोन एज द स्ट्रेंथ ऑफ एटीट्यूड, द फैक्टर्स दैट अफेक्ट एटीट्यूड ऑफ द पीपल. Strength of attitude. If your attitude of either positive or negative for something is weak, attitude is nothing but positive or negative orientations towards anything, whether it could be anything, gender, race, religion, food habit, dress, clothing, country, anything. Your choice of color also is also your attitude. Attitude is positive or negative orientation towards anything. If the strength of my attitude for any positive or negative thing is weak, the hate speech can have a persuasive effect on that. Or yes or no? Maybe, see, if it is against religion, for example, if it is against religion, I belong to this religion, and a person from my religion only is creating hate speech against another religion, my attitude of my religion towards another religion was positive, but it was weak. The moment I heard his hate speech, my positiveness turned to be negative, and maybe this negative is not weak, the negative is strong now. So it means somebody's hate speech had a persuasive effect on my attitude, which converted my positive attitude to negative attitude, which converted my weak attitude to a strong attitude, which is negative in its orientation. So at individual level, it can have a persuasion effect, a persuasive effect. Maybe in my office I was talking to people from other religions very politely, but suddenly I will start behaving in a different way. So he completely changed my attitude because my attitude was weak. So can I say not only persuasive, it will bring in a एटीट्यूड का चैप्टर 5 या 6 दिन चलेगा, 8 to 12 hours की क्लास, so many dimensions to talk.
How to differentiate between attitude and behavior?
See, behavior is there is a high probability that there is no sync between attitude and behavior. For example, your attitude is negative towards your boss. Your attitude is negative towards your boss, but will your behavior be negative? The last behavior, no? If your behavior is negative, from tomorrow onwards he will tell you to behave at home. So your behavior may not be reflective of your attitude. You have lot of anger with your parents, but your behavior will not be reflective on your attitude. Obviously, even if it is, see, why in the teenage we like to spend our time with our schoolmates or college mates more than the parents? Because the expression of behavior, there is no hesitation. Yes or no? That is why you tend to share everything with your classmate or schoolmate or college mate, but not with your parents, no matter how free they are with you. If they are too free like friends, then they are no parents. Simple. So your behavior has so many dimensions of reflection. So that is why in attitude, see, attitude has 3 dimensions. 3 dimensions simply. One dimension is the affect dimension, which is called the emotion dimension. The second dimension is called the cognition. The cognitive dimension is basically the information that you are getting to, and the last is the tendency of behaving, the tendency of behavior. These 3 combinedly make your attitude. These 3 combinedly make your attitude, and it is not behavior, it is the tendency of behavior which is part of your attitude. It is not behavior. Behavior is not part of attitude, because attitude and behavior can be different. The reason why you want to be with your friends is because there is no restriction on self-expression. You can express whatever you want to express. If you tell in front of your father, I like Aishwarya, but you can tell this in front of your friend without hesitation. Probably see her photo also. Okay? But you cannot do this. You cannot do this. But there are some parents now who are more liberal in their approach. But they are lucky, or those if at all somebody has. I did not have that. So yeah. ठीक है? एथिक्स में बहुत मज़ा आता है पढ़ने में. एथिक्स पढ़ने में, पढ़ाने में बहुत मज़ा आता है. Yeah, anything else? But one thing I can guarantee, after the ethics classes, I don't know where you have studied, but I have, in my own case, I have seen a lot of change in my own personality after learning ethics, but I did not learn ethics from UPSC perspective. I learnt ethics from psychology perspective. So my learning of ethics goes much more deeper into the subject than, because I had a liking. In fact, I thought of doing my bachelor's in psychology also. Again, my father did not agree. बोला तू वैसे ही आधा पागल है, तू साइकोलॉजी पढ़ेगा तो पूरा पागल हो जाएगा, ठीक है. सो forces में I didn't get time, but maybe in near future I'll do. Surely I'll do. Yeah.
సార్ బ్యాంక్స్ అని పోస్ట్ ఆఫీస్ ఫంక్షన్స్ ఒకటేనా?
No.
అంటే పోస్ట్ ఆఫీస్లో లోన్స్ ఇవ్వా?
ఇస్తారు. There are entities, that some postal bank units are there which give loan. See, what is the body that is controlling them is matters. Banks are controlled by two: Reserve Bank of India Act 1934, Banking Regulation Act 1949. But the post offices are not controlled by those acts. So the strictness or the liberally how they are controlled depends on the statute. You use the word scheduled commercial banks. Use the word scheduled commercial banks. What is this scheduled? The banks whose name is listed in the RBI's Act, they are scheduled commercial banks. That's the only difference.
అంటే మోస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ది అంటే వర్క్స్ ఉంటాయి కదా సార్, బ్యాంకులు ఏవైతే చేస్తాయి, పీపుల్ ఎందుకు పోస్ట్ ఆఫీస్లో అకౌంట్స్ ఓపెన్ చేయరు, బ్యాంకులో ఎందుకు అకౌంట్స్?
Because it is more purposeful to open, because the variety of services that are available in banks is much more than a post office, and post office is a limited scale. It has its own limitations in lending, it has its own limitations in accepting deposits. So that is the reason why most of the business ventures, they go for banks as their account, not post offices. Post offices generally for people who are salaried people who get on and off money, so that some products of the post office they can buy. Antegani there is no difference. There is a difference in regulation, there is a difference in service, there is a difference in capacity to serve also. All these differences are there. Yeah. Chale bhai. Anything else? Shall we?
Sir, what is tendency of behavior?
This I gave you an example. No?
You said like specifically tendency.
Yes. See, behavior is something else. Your tendency to behave is something else. If these two are affecting your tendency to behave, then definitely it is part of your attitude. See, that is why I am saying in attitude it is only the tendency. Say, for example, how you behave in a closed room is completely different than how you behave here. But is your behavior here your tendency? What is your? Because what is affecting your tendency? It is the cognition, that you need to be disciplined in the classroom. This is the information that has been fed to your subconscious mind. Here you cannot yawn loudly. So here you cannot talk over phone loudly when the class is going on. This is the cognition information that has gone to you, which is affecting your tendency to behave. Very very important. ठीक है? इसी की क्लास 2 घंटे की है. Cognition, most important topic. If you understand what is, see, you come out from your hostel to come to attend the class. There is so much of information fed to you, no? The moment you came down the hostel, there are 4 or 5 people sitting and talking. Somebody would have come for admission, somebody would be leaving, somebody would be having breakfast, somebody would be fighting for something. You stepped onto the road, you saw some people fighting with each other, some vehicles going. Will your brain remember these entire information for life? No. Your brain is selective. Your brain is selective in choosing what to be retained and what not to be retained. If that was not so, your brain would have blasted by now. So much of information is coming to you, right? So the cognition is only storing the information that is essential for you. So that is where these type of dimensions do have, see, the way you behave in a theater is completely different than how you behave. In the theater you cannot behave as if you are in the class. In the class you cannot behave as if you are in the theater. At the end of the class you cannot do like this. Can you do that? No. So that is how your information is affecting your tendency. That is determining your attitude. Okay? Chalo. Anybody? Thank you very much.